Y'all, we're back. Season 3 of Girl Call Me with Tanya and Jessica is officially here. And let me tell you, this season, it's all about community.
Because listen, in a world that's getting wilder by the day, one thing we know for sure, we can't do this alone.
And this season, we're diving into how we show up for each other, build our circles, and find joy, no matter what's going on in this crazy world.
And of course, we're bringing our usual mix of real talk, hot topics, and deep conversations because you know we have things to discuss.
We're definitely talking about the mess, from pop culture chaos to politics to the wildest headlines you didn't even know you missed. We got you.
But we're also making sure we make time to celebrate the women who are out here shining. Our new segment, Shine Sis Shine, is giving Black women their flowers because we refuse to let their greatness go unnoticed.
And as always, we're keeping it raw, keeping it funny, and keeping it real. Because if we can't be honest here, then girl, call me later.
So grab your tea, get comfy, and get ready for a season full of laughs, love, and the kind of conversations you need in your life.
It's season 3, and we're just getting started. Hello, what's happening? I know that, first of all, I want to say that I am happy and I am at peace, but my household isn't, and you aren't either.
No, I'm probably the furthest thing from peace that you could find right now.
So, won't you share a little bit about your devastation?
About my tragedy? Sure. Let me open up my trauma.
Won't we start with Jessica's trauma? Because I know. Okay, listen. Let's give the background.
First of all,
Jessica,
I'm wearing a high bun today.
There's a high, right,
in honor of Miss Juju Watkins, also known as Juju Watkins.
Juju. Jessica is obsessed, otherwise known as very involved and very loves basketball, women's basketball in particular.
Yeah.
And those of you who are listening often hear about Juju, and I think she was wearing a Juju t-shirt yesterday or the day before or Monday or Saturday. But tell us a little bit of what happened, Jessica.
Oh, yeah. So I'm a USC women's basketball season ticket holder. So for those of you who don't know, today's going to be a lot about sports. And so we're going to also try to educate people a lot about sports because women's sports is amazing. So
actually educate me. Actually,
yes.
I think the point of this episode is to really educate me. So I will be.
Well, I don't know if that's the point of this episode, but I'm glad that that's one of your objectives. But there is nothing worse, I don't think, in sports than watching your favorite player have a season-ending injury in person. When I tell you I was about to burst into tears, I did control myself.
I'm really it sounds like you did.
Because my seats are about 4 rows up from Juju's parents and her whole family.
Oh my God.
So I wasn't going to be that person who I'm sitting there crying when it's like they're looking at their daughter having a season-ending injury.
I'm surprised you didn't go ahead and grab her mom and give her a hug.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, this is, it's a USC. I grew up a USC fan. My whole family is hardcore USC, women's sports, men's sports, I went and saw a USC women's basketball team practice when I was in high school. Like we bleed cardinal and gold. And as I've gotten older, I hadn't really been so into a lot of men's sports just because I just don't find it so entertaining. But women's basketball has just been a thing for me, especially in the last few years. So anyway, I go to the games a lot. For anyone who watches any type of sports, an ACL when you see one. There's nothing like it. And actually, my best friend in the moment called me and I picked up the phone and he said, "How much can you see on the court?" I said, "Not much. They're covering her." And, we're in the arena, so I'm not seeing replays. Everyone at home is watching all these replays.
Everyone is watching replays
so my phone's blowing up, but we can't see any replays and they're definitely not going to show it in the stadium. So I just am watching her just cry and scream in pain, and her parents are jumping up and they're taking her off. And as soon as 3 people who I know watch a lot of sports text me immediately and said, "That's an ACL. You do not mistake an ACL." And it's terrible. And I feel for her. And they announced it. They took her to CAC, did an MRI, and they announced it at season ending. And so shout out to Juge. The team came back and won by over 40.
They came through.
And look, you got a team of there's 3 Nigerians on that team. They call themselves, the Naja girls, and they took over. Also, the girls, they call themselves the Burger Girls. We got 3 freshmen who are all Americans who played in the McDonald's game, which is a big
Okay.
deal when they were seniors. 3 freshmen, they took over, and the team won it for Jude. And but it is gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
Gut-wrenching, gut-wrenching, gut-wrenching.
I don't even
Devastation.
think I don't even think you slept last night. I mean, I
Mm-mm.
think that you were just I mean, I think it's harder because you watched it in person. Had
Yeah,
you because I think and you are surrounded by the family and
yeah.
you are a juju. Is there a jujuite? Is there a jujuer? Is there
I
the
don't know
juju
what they call her
butterflies? I mean,
fans. Yeah, like
what
the
did they call you
jujus.
guys?
I
The
don't know,
jujus?
juju
I think
beans? I
I
don't
think
know.
you're the juju beans. I think yeah, you're a juju bean. I will say that all love and all prayers to her
Mm,
for quick healing and
not gonna be quick. It's gonna be about 6 to
and
12 months.
it's gonna be 12 months, but I think I said something stupid to my wife. I was like, "Why is she playing in this college sport? She needs to be focused." And Jen's like, "This is what she does. I need you to."
Focused
But
on
I was
what?
like,
By the way,
"Well,
Imma go
the
ahead and call you out too,
WNBA, the
because girl,
WNBA." I was like,
WNBA,
I need
okay.
her.
We're
I
gonna
need
talk more in this episode about how money works and how the business works of women's
I get
sports,
it.
but it's not the way they all are gonna make money is
It's
staying in
sponsorship
college.
and
And also in
sponsorship.
women's sports, WNBA, you can't leave early. There is no leaving early. So you
Uh,
have to play 4 years of college.
not like the men.
Not like the men. And yeah, I mean, look, this we'll see if she has to redshirt next year. They probably will have her redshirt because that means take a year off,
I
but
know
it's
what it
not
is.
against
Don't you
your
don't have to
I'm
be okay,
telling
good.
our listeners,
Oh, okay, good. I thought it was
don't take offense to everything that I'm gonna give information on, but red shirt means take a year without losing your eligibility. So she
yeah.
probably will. But you know what? That just gives her time to make more money. Same thing happened to Paige Beckers. You may know Paige Beckers. She's the blonde who plays on UConn. This is her 5th year because she had an ACL in 2022. So
You know what?
blessings.
Blessings to her. But I want to you as someone who I guess is a spectator for folks that are incredibly, my best friend, March Madness, nothing happens in March.
Saw her at the game on Saturday.
She was there with her Juju t-shirt. I'm sure
Yeah.
her shirt, right?
Yes.
I think her and her wife had matching shirts on. It was like
Yeah.
I was like, okay, y'all are jujuing it.
Mm.
So tell me a little bit about March Madness, what it means to you. I mean, I'm looking at the t-shirts. I see brackets. I got a bracket from people on my team going, "Who are you?" Tanya joined the bracket. I was like, "What am I doing? I don't know how to do this." I think I did
Yeah.
pay. I think I did something, and I was like, "Let me see if I can win this," but because I'm competitive.
Yeah, to be honest with you, like, I don't March Madness is not I mean, okay, well, I did win the women's bracket 2
Yeah,
years in a
you
row.
did.
I
Yeah, you
did.
did.
But
Please don't say that this is not
March
important.
Madness is not I mean, it is important to me, but because I'm not a men's basketball fan so much, college
Mhm.
for sure, I never got crazy into the March Madness bracket thing. I think now it's probably a little easier because we can watch there's so many places to watch games,
Yeah.
and you can watch games like, I was just never gonna be the person who's, like, camped out at a bar at, like, 10 a.m. to try to watch 6 games, but now you have YouTube TV, you have things on your
Right. My
phone, it's a
watch
lot
is
easier
watching.
to
Yeah, all
follow.
day.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I think it's a fun time for people. I think, look, a lot of people who what it did for college basketball is it gets people super excited because the level of play in college basketball is really fun to watch. And if you're someone who's a big NBA fan, you don't necessarily get these big upsets. You don't necessarily, and I will say the men's game has a lot more upsets in March Madness than women's, but yeah, it's fun. It feels very obviously it's super competitive, but it
Yeah.
feels for people who like sports, it's just that energy. It's that back to back to back to back like and you're tracking and the season's long 20, 30 games and this is just like a short amount of time sprint to the finish and
I will
yeah.
say that I'm the type of person that during the finals, that's when I focus. I've on every sport.
Oh like and
If
oh okay.
in general, when the
Hmm.
finals are hit, and I'm like, all of a sudden, people are like, "Oh,
You're
you
buying
brought."
jerseys, you're
I'm in. I'm
mhm,
in.
yeah,
But you're like, I can't. I don't have the patience. I don't have the patience. But I will
yeah,
say, my best friend, she will sit and watch every single game. Duke, and
Yeah.
she's a Duke graduate, so she tends to be obsessed about the Dukes, men's and women's. And so, but it's amazing to watch. And I think we've talked a lot about community this season, and that is an incredible and a big community. And it's actually, listen, I'm here with my Meghan Markle food shows. You guys have your sports. I mean,
And I'm just gonna go out and say, and I shared this with your best friend when I saw her at the game. I was like, Tanya is so salty that no one is paying attention to her right now. And you were like, I don't know what all you guys are doing wearing these t-shirts. I don't know what
I
I
will
just
say,
don't like sport. I was like, okay,
I never said
this
I
is
don't like. I
well,
appreciate it from
I
afar.
was okay.
Okay,
Well, I was trying not
don't
to
go
say what you really
crazy.
said,
Let me get
but
oils. Let me get
I
my
was
oils.
I was trying not to say what you really said, but a point is, yes, I feel like it's sports is not exclusionary. Anyone can watch sports.
Yeah,
Anyone can get excited. And I think March Madness does that because you don't it starts at 0, right? You don't need to
right.
anything except for like these teams are playing. Let's see who makes it to the finals. So,
Well, I have over the last, I guess I feel like it's the last year. I mean, I'm not saying that women's sports was important before, but I feel like in the whether it's Caitlin Clark, Juju, there's been so many
Angel
with
Reese,
Angel Reese. Don't forget Angel.
Bayou
TV.
Barbie. That's her
Here we
nickname.
go. I will say that there seems to be an increase in interest,
Yeah.
viewership. I'm talking about deals, the money. I mean, I just remember hearing how the women were basically having to go overseas in order
Yeah.
to make a coins. I mean,
Yeah. Look, Brittany Griner. Two
listen,
2 years
Russia, that's
ago,
what happened.
Brittany Griner had to play in Russia. And
Right.
this year, she got to stay home and play in a league that started by women, mostly invested in by women, and she could have a baby with her wife and chill in
Right.
Miami instead of taking vape cartridges over to Russia and having I mean,
Uh,
that's what
right.
happened.
Right. But yeah,
She was trying to take a vape to chill and go play basketball overseas. Next thing you know, I'll stop there. But anyway, yes, there's the rise in women's sports has been I think the Olympics has helped too, I should say, because I think it was the
yes.
rise was
Oh
there
yeah.
and then the Summer Olympics came and it was just this like steady like Simone Biles, Coco Gauff, you have these people and
Yeah.
so if you weren't so into one sport or another, now you're getting exposed to a bunch of other women. I think at a time where, yeah, the TV viewership, I think they're starting to really realize, oh wow, women could make us money here. And,
Right.
you know,
And
and
I
that's
think
not
that's really its roots, right? It's all about the fact that women are
it's all
making
about
it
how they're gonna make money.
right. Listen, make your coins, but
Make your coins.
I was trying to do a little research and I was looking at like a 4-year deal for 250 million. It happened for National Women's Soccer League,
Yeah.
which the viewership increased 95% last
Yeah.
year compared to 2023. I mean, people, I don't know, maybe it's the climate, maybe it's the fact that we're wanting to support, but I mean, like I said, it just seems that there's a need. I don't think I hear about men's that much. I'm not really hearing about the men.
I think too, like, I mean, let's first of all be honest, like we're in a bit of a
Mm,
bubble, right? Like, yes,
that's true.
because Black
That's
viewership is up generally in sports and women's sports, and so is women's viewership. So we're a bit in a bubble. But yeah, I I think one there was obviously a time where people really want to support women and seeing women
right.
do more things. I mean, I'm not going to be like I'm not going to say that this was causation, but I do think that even people like Hillary and Kamala, I think just
Mm,
women more in our day-to-day lives in positions of quote unquote power
political.
um,
Yep.
has helped us be like, oh yeah, why do I mean, it's helped me. Like I sit around and I'm like, why would I watch a men's game? Like if I can watch a
Poor
women's
men.
game
Poor
and
men.
watch it and be entertained, but also feel super inspired and also motivated and feel good about myself because I'm watching people who look like me play, like why wouldn't I choose to watch women's sports is my question, right? Especially if
Right.
you like the game.
Right. And I was just thinking, I recently I'm part of the, that LGBTQ, and I
IA, IA
IA
plus.
plus plus plus. And there has been a rise in women's bars, exclusive women's bars. Now, I'm not going to say they're just for us,
Yeah, I
but
was
I'm
just gonna
saying,
say, did you just
but
claim all the women's sports
I,
bars
I
for
think
the
I might have,
LGBTQIA
because why would
community?
it? Listen, come on. You know who's in there. You know who owns
I'm gonna
it.
let you
You
say that, not me.
you know who's all up in there. But I love that. I mean, listen, that's how you
Yeah,
get me to sports. You
yeah.
get me. Jen and I go to a lesbian
You
bar.
get a sangria or a margarita, and she's in.
Give me some drinks,
Look,
and I'm all 100% in
look,
with
you
some
were at your
systems.
own club going to work out, and they offered you a drink, and you said okay. So
You
maybe the
took
sports bar is really the place for you.
I think it is. Whether I'm working out or watching
Yes.
sports, give me
Right.
alcohol, and
Some of
I'm
us are on
in.
the field, some of us are in the stands, some of
Some of
us
us are
prefer to be
sipping.
at the bar. Yeah, no, the one that a lot of us heard about initially was the sports bra. That's in Portland, Maryland, or
I love
Portland,
it.
Oregon, excuse
I
me.
love.
And that was, I think, 2022, April
Mhm.
2022. And they got a ton of press. I mean, most people have heard of the sports bra at this point. And
I love it.
then it says that since then, the number of bars in the United States dedicated to showing women's sports is expected to quadruple this year, from
Money.
6 at the
Listen,
start of the year to about 2 dozen by the end of the year. And we'll post a link to all the if
I
you
love.
haven't
Oh
heard of a
yes.
women's sports bar, first of all, if you've ever been to a bar and you want to watch a women's game and you ask a bartender, they're like, "Yeah, right." Or, "Yeah, let me put it on this corner TV and you're not going to have any audio." But now there's these dedicated sports bars, and by the way, we already know, we don't need the stats for that. There's less fights there. There's less toxic masculinity.
Ah,
There's
less.
more cheering. There's probably more like hugs and kisses and, well, let's be careful there. But there,
As I
as
said.
Tanya said, but there's definitely more love in watching the game. So
It's-
yeah, we'll post a link to that because I
I love
I actually
that.
haven't been. There's one in Long Beach. We should go. I'm going to tell Jen.
I heard there
We
was
should
one.
go. I think it's called
Wasn't there one open
Watch Me.
downtown? Wasn't one open or about to open downtown LA? Maybe I'm wrong.
I
Maybe
don't
it was
know.
the, yeah, but I love that idea, and I think maybe that's the next business. Maybe that's the next. I'm in this manifestation. I'm like manifesting. I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's how I get into it. Get into it. Open a sports bar,
A sports bra.
a sports
Um,
bra.
yeah, the one in Long Beach is called Watch Me Sports Bar. So maybe we
Huh.
should go
I think we should go
and
live.
watch
We'll
the
do a
game.
live record. We'll do a live there to
Yeah.
promote. I think the other thing about what I'm seeing is that I think wasn't possible in the past for maybe even those like Serena, Billie Jean King, and others, is that they're able to, I think these new young athletes are able to control their narrative and able to control what they want to do, how they want to be represented.
Yeah.
Listen, they're going to come in a mini or they're going to come in a full men's outfit, but they're going to come how they want to.
Mhm. Oh, yeah,
And you
controlling
have to,
their yeah.
yeah,
They
you have
all
to
have a
accept it.
brand.
They
Yeah,
all
they
have
all
a
have a
brand.
brand, and I what I love about women's sports is I think we're in a place right now where their brand does not have to be watered down or hyper sexualized to make money. And, we all saw that happening in early days of Serena. We saw that
Oh,
happen. We
that
saw
was all
Serena was
about.
making more money than anybody, or sorry,
Yeah.
winning more than anybody.
Right.
And what was the old girl's name? No one even remembers, the blonde who was like
Martine, oh,
making
no, okay. Yes,
Sharapova
that
was
was a
making
hater, the
like 3
hater.
times more money than her, and it was like,
Yeah.
"Girl." These days, I think you see people really leaning into who they are. I mean, look at the W, like, people it's a league that is a lot of openly gay women who have kids and have families and are sharing their stories and holding their
Yes.
kids and kissing their kids, and it's like, that's what it is. They do the tunnel fits, when they come in the games and they show what people are wearing. And it's not, to your point, all mini skirts and whatever. And so I love that women are expressing themselves, and it's not this, we're into women's sports, but only if you look like Maria Sharapova, right?
Thank
Which
you.
and I think that you have women, shout out Cameron Brink. I know your wife is a fan of Cameron Brink, who is a beautiful I mean, she's a model, like, right? She's
Right.
6 something, long blonde hair, and she's right out there saying to people like, "This league isn't just about people like me. This league looks like a lot of us, other women, and isn't taking." I mean, she's taking those coins, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't. I mean, she should. But I think that you're seeing sponsors and endorsements go to people that look like all of us, which is awesome. I also think the interesting thing about women's sports and the really interesting opportunity is that there's a space for women to build what this industry is and to
Love
build
that.
the business. And that isn't necessarily something that men had an opportunity to do because the industry has been around forever. But you see athletes like Allison Felix, who launches a business management company that's exclusively for female athletes. You see people like Alex Morgan, she's a soccer player, Simone Manuel, she's a swimmer, Sue Bird. They come out with the media company. You guys have probably all seen their shirts that say everyone watches women's sports.
We
They
have one in my house. It's
You
got
see
5.
people talk about Serena. Girl, Serena and her husband, both an ally of
Right.
women's sports,
Yeah.
and their daughter. They got their daughter in women's sports ownership. She's a part owner in the
Wow, I didn't
soccer
know that.
team, in Angel City soccer team. And Serena just invested in a WNBA team. So you have these women who are, and like, we should talk about Unrivaled, because Unrivaled is a 3-on-3 basketball league that came out this year. They raised something like $35 million, and it was started by 2 players who, exactly what you said, didn't were sick of going overseas to Russia
Mhm.
and said, "We're gonna play here and we're gonna make money and we're gonna get huge backing." And every
And they
woman who
do, and
and
they
they do.
do. I
And
mean,
every
and
woman
I
who
would the amount of
plays.
people who are actually supporting, trying to buy and own men and women alike because they
Yep.
know that this investment is gonna a good ROI.
Yeah, and what Unrivaled did is gave equity in the company to all the players who played.
Oh, I
So
love that.
what they're doing is they're able to step
Building
into
co-op.
and build this industry. And I think
Yeah.
for so many athletes who are men and women both, who are concerned about what does their career, after sports career look like, women's sports is a huge opportunity. And I love that for us. And I love that women are kind of taking the reins there.
Yeah.
Um,
Eh, I don't know about you. I was raised by a gambler. We're talking OTB, on
right,
track betting, on track betting. Listen, he bet on a horse. I got new
right,
shoes as a kid.
right.
If the horse won, I got new shoes. I mean, that's my life. But what I will say, the gambling when it comes to women's sports and the opportunity that currently exists is also pretty interesting. And that's actually how you can get me involved.
See, okay, so here's the thing. I am a gambler at heart and by nature. Like, I'll sit at a card table all day.
Me
I
too.
first
Spades, girl. Ooh,
but
listen.
I mean at the casino. But
Oh, okay.
I
Blackjack, blackjack.
Yeah, or 3-card poker. And I obviously love sports, but for some reason I cannot get into sports betting. I think it's just
Why?
like I'm already so competitive.
Oh,
Girl,
yeah.
watching that game last night,
You're a mess.
it's gonna take 3 to 5 days for me to come out of that. And so the idea that I'm also putting money on it is like, the stakes are too high for me. Like, I need to just be able to have something that I enjoy, that I also couldn't be like, when your team loses and that feeling of agony, let's
Yeah.
double that and put some money on it. Like, that's not happening for me.
Then you lost $1,000 and
Right,
you're like, listen,
exactly.
it really is over for you.
So
We
your
wouldn't
heart
touch it.
hurts, your pocketbook hurts.
You're
Like, I'm not
broke.
trying to do all that. No.
I would do. I mean, I love the
Okay, well,
idea.
have you
I
told
mean,
Jen this?
I don't know if Jen would be like, she doesn't trust me. She
Yeah.
wouldn't trust me to
Yeah,
make
she
the
would,
bet.
especially not because if you put it on your phone and it was on the apps, you'd have a real problem.
I will say, as a kid, when I would pick a horse, I would always pick one that's gonna win. And what I would do is close my eyes and be like, "This one." And so I think that's a bit how
Yeah.
I would do it. I would just be betting wild. I'd be like, "Okay, let's hope for the best. Let's bet on both sides." Yeah, but no, maybe it's
Well,
not a good
yeah,
idea.
we do have to acknowledge that the rise in women's sports, and when you talk about March Madness, I mean, part of the reason people get obsessed with March Madness is the betting. I mean, it always has been, even before betting got to
All of
where it
it.
is now with
Right.
DraftKings and you could do it from your phone. Even before that, Vegas was crazy during March Madness. So
Right.
I think that the women's sports, I'm sure there is actually, shout out to Dina, one of my friends at the club. She was telling me that she was talking to some people. She said a bunch of people she knows who bet on women's sports who don't even like watch sports, don't know anything about women's sports,
Be
but
me.
just put money on the games.
That
So
would be me.
look, I'm not going to hate on it because what is that doing? That's just driving more attention and more
Listen.
eyes onto women's sports. So if that's the way you need to engage,
Listen,
please
if you know how I
enter
feel
the
about coins,
conversation.
the minute I win, it would be like y'all be like, "Why is Tanya just found it? Found the sports bug." I'd be like, "No, I got coins on this."
I am dying. I'm just imagining you coming home like hat, t-shirt, tote bag. Jen's like, "What has happened?" You're like, "Oh, nothing. I'm just, loving the game these days." Meanwhile, you
Loving the
have an
game.
earpiece in, you've got like the multi-view with like 5 games going on.
Right, right. She would be like, "Of course, of course." That's the only
Look,
way.
she probably wouldn't
Um,
say anything if it was paying for a vacation or something.
listen, uh, speak on it. I
But
will.
upgraded seats.
I will say, or her season tickets that she
Yes.
now. It's
Okay.
all about the season tickets.
Yes.
I will say the commentary from certain people we don't like about women's sports and the sexism has
Stephen A.
come.
Smith.
Well, I thought we weren't saying, but okay, you did. Oh,
No
but
problem saying it.
you know what I'm saying? I think it's been really, I think that's the other part, trying to pin women against each other, trying to make something that they're not. That's actually, I mean, actually par for the course, but disappointing.
Yeah. But you're right. It's par for the course. I think that that is the thing we have to remember is like we can't expect that because these women are accomplished athletes that the media is not going to treat them the same way that they treat women generally. And so, right, we're still in this space of like there can only be one. The good thing is they can laugh to the bank, right? Before it's like it was
Right.
challenging because they weren't making the money, but I think now they are. And look again, a squawk box is like Stephen A. Smith. At least
Squawk
he's talking about
boxes.
it because there's a bunch of
You know
people that
what?
listen to that
That's true.
fool. So at least he's talking about it, and at least people are hearing about it. Because you're right, when we talk about like the WNBA, Black viewers make up 34% of the
Yep.
WNBA viewership, and that's not all women. Men are still a large and growing portion of the audience. They make up 60% of viewers, and that is on ESPN, where that squawk box is. So if you're a Black man who listens to Stephen A. Smith, you're probably watching the WNBA because 60% of the viewers on ESPN are men. And so I think that that's the myth is that women's sports is just for women. You have a
Right.
ton of men watching women's sports.
And I also wanna think about the young girls. When you think about the young girls
Mhm.
from 2 to 17, they're
Yeah.
seeing their Caitlyn, they're seeing their Juju with their
Yeah.
high ponies
Ah,
that you have right now who are hurt.
I know,
Um,
even though I'm a 41-year-old woman with that look, repping a 19-year-old's bun. Shout out to all the 7 to 12-year-old, the 2 to 8-year-olds who are doing the same thing today.
right, who sees you today will know. But I will say that there is a beautiful thing about these young girls having people that look like them
Yes.
that they can look
Yes.
up to, and there always has been, but I
Yeah.
think on this level and
Yeah.
getting this much attention
Yeah.
really is a bit different.
Shout out to my dad, 1997.
Aw,
I
dad.
went to the
Mr.
first
Robinson, Coach
Mr. Robinson,
Robinson.
Coach
Hi.
Robinson. I went to the first LA Sparks game in 1997 and at the Staples Center, then Staples Center. And I remember going in and, loving basketball also recorded at that first
Love
game.
great,
That
great movie.
last, yeah, that last, actually, pause on Love and Basketball. Interesting story about that. Sanaa Lathan talked about how when they started filming Love and Basketball, there wasn't a WNBA. So the end of the
Oh,
story
wow.
was not Monica being in the WNBA. And so it just, by the time they finished, the WNBA started, which is why they filmed at that first game to show that like
When
she made
when
it to
did
the
the
girls.
WNBA start?
Yeah, 97,
Oh, wow.
97, the
Wow.
1900s.
Ni the
That's what the
best years,
kids
the
that's
fun
what the
year that
kids
was the
say.
fun years, the fun
The
years.
1900s, yeah. But yeah, so anyway, so back off of love and basketball. But yes, I
I
think
love that.
that continuing to support the teams is important. And I was just walking this morning and I was like, do I need to buy Sparks season tickets? I think I do. I think I'm going to.
I'm surprised you hadn't. I mean,
I know. Well,
listen,
it's because I'm not a
Jen
Sparks fan. But
well, Jen is right there where all of the action I'm yes, I think
I know. And
y'all need to do it.
I live 7 steps from
Right.
crypto.
That's
And
ridiculous. Yeah.
yeah, and now the teams are a lot more equally distributed this season. So I like
Yeah.
players on each team. And what helped that actually? Unrivaled. Because it's getting to see and more of the players more often. So anyway, whatever. I put in the little request to have a ticket rep call me. What are you gonna
They'll
do?
trust me, they're gonna call. And you
What are
know
you
what?
what
It
are you gonna
is
do?
investing. It continues to
Yes.
even if you're not going to all the games or so forth, it's
Look.
investing once again in your love and
And
what
when
you
I tell
love.
it's true, because I tell you when that the what I outside of yesterday's game, because when I left, I was fully devastated.
You
Most
were.
games I go to, and I go to, even though I don't mess with UCLA normally, I'm a huge fan of their gymnastics team who just won the Big Ten championship.
Yes.
When I walk out of their game or their meets, or when I walk out of a game, it is a refilling of your cup. I think as a woman, it's an empowering moment. It's a refreshing moment. So anyway, all of that means I got to buy these ticks. I got to buy these tickets.
Yes, you have to buy these tickets. And then
Give them
and
my
then
coins.
all of right, yes, you can join all my friends because
Well, we
I
did
mean, what
last year. I'm not going to any games with any of your friends this year for Sparks, by the way, because last year we
it
thought
was
it was
rough.
going to be fun. We had a little day out, and then the Sparks beat my Aces, and then
It
I'm
was
sitting
rough.
there with an Aces shirt around a bunch of Sparks fans. So that's
It
not
was
filling my cup with joy. So
I was there. I was like,
I'm
"Wow."
gonna
And
go this year,
we're all looking at you going, "Is she gonna be
waiting for her
okay?
to blow. Yeah, yeah.
Is
No,
she
this
gonna
year I'm gonna go by myself. I'll text you,
be" Right.
but I'm gonna need my own bubble.
Blessings, blessings.
Hmm.
But I will say the one thing that is disturbing has always been the salaries,
Yeah,
and that the salaries are not proportionate
yeah,
to and so far
yeah,
from when you think about men and
yeah,
the money that they make
yeah.
versus women. I do think it's getting better. I think interest from sponsors helped 15 highest paid female athletes earn an estimated 221 million last year.
Right.
But it's not the WNBA or the league that's paying them.
Well, certainly
It's
not the
the
WNBA because
sponsorship. It's the
yeah.
McDonald's, it's the shoes, it's the Reese's Pieces.
Well,
That's
and
what's
be
doing it.
and be real, I mean, most of the highest paid female athletes are tennis players. And so
Right.
it's
Coco.
actually not a bunch of US companies always, because that's tennis players from all over the world. So, and a lot of times tennis viewers, it's a different demographic. So that's Rolex. That's a different level of sponsor. Because yeah, I think Coco's the highest paid woman, female athlete last year. I think she was what, 30 million. But that she was still not on the top 100 athletes list.
Right.
So she would have only been, what did it say? She would have only been the 125 on the top paid athletes list. That means these trash players who are on the bench in the NBA or
Or
trash
make
players in the NFL are making more money than the best athletes in the world who are women.
right.
And, Kelsey Plum, shout out Kelsey Plum, Sparks player now, former Aces. She, California native, by the way. She said she did a really good interview where she broke it down and she said, we're not asking to be paid the same amount as men. We understand that our game is not
Right.
valued at the same as men. We are asking to be paid to what you said earlier, proportionately to what our league is making,
Right.
to what you are being able to sell us on TV for. And that's the place where that's why these female run companies are so important, because they're right now
Mm.
not even actually, they're undervaluing the media and how much women's sports is worth. because they're just not doing the studies on it like the way that they do in men's, which when they don't do that work and that background work to say, "Oh, wow, this is really making us this much money," then it never trickles down to the athletes. And
Right.
yeah, to have I mean, don't get me wrong, tennis and golf are the highest paid athletes, and those are fun
Right.
games,
Golf,
but golf in particular, that's 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 a different level of sponsor, and that's not a 34% Black viewership, Imma tell you that right now, like the WNBA is.
right.
So, yeah, they gotta work on we talk about the W in particular, they gotta work on these contracts. They gotta work on giving these players a cut of what they're gonna be making in some of these big media deals. I think the National Women's Soccer League is doing a better job at that.
Yes. Yes.
But, yeah, they give these girls their coins, please.
Right, and so they don't have to go international, and they
Right?
can't afford to take care of their families.
They have to start in order to get the people in the seats. They have to start in major media markets. Major media markets are also the most expensive places to live in the country. So you have New York, you have LA, you have Bay Area. These are these women who are making 100, $200,000 a year and are so quote unquote celebrities have to figure out a way to live in the
Survive.
Bay Area. And it's
Right.
like, what?
I'm
It doesn't make any
right,
sense. Make it make
right.
sense.
Make it make sense.
Well, and shout out to brands like Sephora has been doing a great job. They were a huge sponsor of Unrivaled. Athleta and their Power of She campaign, they've always supported
Yeah. The
athletes
Nike
and
Super
women,
Bowl ad, think about the Nike Super Bowl ad that I think
right?
everyone looked at and was
Right.
like, I
And
mean, it played so many times. You're like,
and
"Oh,
Nike
sport."
and look, Nike has not
Com
historically been really supportive of women. So that was huge for them to buy a Super Bowl ad, even though I don't personally think the campaign makes a ton of sense. That's okay. They They put their money behind what they were
They did.
doing.
They did.
Even companies that are semi-questionable right now, like State Farm. Caitlin Clark and Juju are the top spokespeople for State Farm right now. That's a big deal to have one of the biggest insurance companies in the country.
But it can't just be sponsorships,
No, and
like I said.
it can't be 10 women. I mean, we're talking about the biggest women
Right,
in
there's I
sports.
mean, come on, let's think about the
Yeah,
league as a whole.
right.
It
Right.
can't just be, and Caitlyn, I think I was hating for a second. Maybe I just didn't know enough. Who is this Caitlyn? Why are they talking about this? Why, but I but but that's
Didn't Jen say she was worried about you saying something crazy on this episode?
yes.
That may have been it.
Fine, finally. That's kind of good. I'm happy. But, I want to, you know, give you your flowers in the sense of that you have sort of been such a proponent and you've had that loudspeaker for women's sports, and you, like so many others, we need to listen to it. And you may have come from my neck a few times when I've been like, girl, where are you? Why you got a jersey on? But
Okay, first of all, I
it's
don't
not
wear jerseys, it's a whole thing, I feel odd in them, but T-shirts, yes.
right. But I do think that we don't have to watch and we all don't have to appreciate it. But
Yeah,
I do appreciate and respect the camaraderie, the game.
yeah,
And I'm respecting and I'm so excited about the attention that these
right.
women are getting.
Because overall, I think even if you don't like sports, what women's sports is doing for us as women cannot
Right.
be understated.
Yep.
So, more men understanding the complexities of women and
Right.
understanding how women can show up in this world as strong, as capable,
Right.
as, good teammates, as leaders, that's really important. And so even if you don't understand the rules, what women's sports is doing for all of us as women is huge. And
Right.
I think we should go into our shine sis shine segment. I just need to go back to shout out to my all-time favorite college athlete, Juju Watkins. May she get better, faster. May she listen to herself and not have
Mm.
people pushing her to come back sooner than she needs to. And let her receive the love that the community is pouring out. The LA community, the women's sports community, her
All of it.
teammates. LA's goes hard for Juju. And so I want to say she is brightens my days all the time, and shout out Juju. Hope you get better soon. You are a star forever in my eyes. My other shout outs, obviously, I do talk about these folks often. Coco Golf, she started strong. She's been having hit a rough patch, but she just turned 21, and your girl's making $30 million a year and is ranked number 3 in the world. So she's doing her thing. And she just released a new shoe for her grandmother, who is a teacher and civil
Oh,
rights activist in Delray Beach,
yes.
Florida. So shout out Coco. Jordan Childs, after having such a traumatic situation at the Olympics, has come back to lead UCLA to their first Big Ten championship. They're on their way to compete for the nationals. And your girl has been doing a Prince floor routine, which I think she's gotten like 4 10s this year on the floor.
Yeah.
So,
I think I thought.
and then of course Asia Wilson, my
Yeah.
my number one WNBA player, released her shoe this year, the A1 Nike.
Do you have it
Obviously,
yet? Are you getting it?
not open to the public. They just did a release
Okay.
in Las Vegas. I will, even though I don't wear shoes really like that. But Asia's, even if I only wear them to the game,
Put them on your shelf. Put them on your shelf.
girl, got to love Asia Wilson, and love again another woman who's about her community. She has a foundation. I'm a donor. Thank you to my sister who gifted a donation in my name, takes care of girls in South Carolina, helps with literacy and community development. So shout out to all those women.
Shout out. Yeah. And you know what? Many may be surprised. I have my list too.
Okay,
And
go for it.
what I want to call out are the women that paved the way.
Mm,
And the women that paved the way, you mentioned Serena and Venus.
yeah,
Who, you know what? There would be no Coco without Serena and Venus.
right.
And really give her flowers. Billie Jean King. I think it's
Yeah.
another tennis. I'm like, maybe I'm caught up in the
Look
tennis.
at you. Didn't
I
you
do
play
like tennis.
Didn't you say you
I
played at
I
North
played
Hollywood
for
High?
I played for 4 years in high school.
Yeah.
And listen, I still can't play, but it's fine. No one judges. And who paved the way for LGBTQIAs and really came out as a lesbian when many people were in the closet. Cheryl Miller and Lisa Leslie. We all love Lisa Leslie, who in many ways, she fought the good fight early on for
Mm-hmm.
all of these women on the court.
And
And
still
so
involved.
and still actively involved.
Yeah.
And so I just want to this was a fun episode for me. I mean,
Wow.
listen, I was
And
taking
I only had to hit rock bottom for you to agree for this episode. You're like, oh my God, Jessica's
dramatic.
devastated. She's not gonna make it through. I'll give her this little thing to make her feel better.
You know,
Which it
we
has.
talked.
It has made me feel better.
Did it? Good. I mean,
Yes.
I will say we talked last season about bringing an athlete or a coach or someone on. So this is not like I was not involved, excited about the possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Possibility,
Okay.
maybe. But I
Yeah.
will just say that, shout out to all the women who, regardless of what you're doing, whether you're on the court, off the court, that are working and supporting
Yes.
and doing the work every day
Yeah.
to lift other women up.
And if you haven't watched something, women's sports, just try something out. Go to a game, watch something on TV. It's more than, I mean, we talk a lot about basketball because I'm a huge basketball fan, but there's a lot of women's sports out there, from squash. I'm also a squash fan, but from squash to soccer to hockey to, girl, you could go to a roller derby game. Like there is plenty. Okay. There is plenty of women's sports to go out and support. So try it. Just try it. You won't, or go to a sports bar or sports bra near you.
Sports bra or open one.
Or open one.
Thank you. Like, subscribe.
Bye. Like, subscribe. Hey, it's Jessica. Thanks for listening to Girl Call Me. If you have something to add or a story to share, come on over to Instagram or Facebook and join the conversation. Also, make sure you follow and subscribe Girl Call Me. You don't want to miss when we release new episodes. Thanks for listening.